Good afternoon, and welcome to the Voice of Wisdom. With over 60 years of experience as an investment banker, entrepreneur, investment analyst, economist, and venture capitalist, Morty Davis is Wall Street and capitalism personified. The over 400 companies for which he has raised more than $3 billion over the years have created a countless number of jobs and exciting new products. Through the Voice of Wisdom, Mr. Davis explores, analyzes, and debates the most topical, political, economic, and social issues facing our world today. Joining Mr. Davis today for a discussion on the week leading to the 2024 presidential election is Len Carter. Len is an investment banker, business consultant, and private investor. And now, Mr. Davis and Mr. Carter.
What happened?
Ready. Welcome.
Oh, welcome back. It must be Wednesday evening, 6:30. We've taken a hiatus, a break because of all the Jewish religious holidays. So people that followed the Jewish faith and practices couldn't listen to the last two Wednesday podcasts. So we skipped them. A lot happened. We can cover that, what we missed. If you want to ask questions about it, I'm happy to respond. But anyway, we're going to start with the current news. And as always, that's depressing enough. We don't have to go back over the last 2 weeks or months or whatever. And before we deal with that, because it is depressing, the news.
2 weeks worth. So now we need extra happiness discussion because we got 2 weeks.
So I got to give you at least a lift or something that I hope will add to your contentment, to your happiness, to your feeling about your life, and make it more tolerable. So I wrote a book specifically to do that. I wrote the book with my daughter, Rookie. It's the one that's on the screen right now. Happiness Guaranteed or Your Misery Back. And at the bottom, it says, how to be happy no matter what. And that's what I want to teach you all. I love you. You're my favorite people in the whole wide world. I want you to enjoy every day of your life and stay away from aggravation and turn every negative into a positive. So I'll give you just a short, because I don't want to take much of the program up with a discussion of happiness guarantee, although that's probably more worthwhile. I want to urge you to deal with your life realistically and where you're in control. Mostly we're depressed because we're out of control or we can't change something in our life, mistake, a failure, a misfortune, anything that serves to depress you or to put you in a down mood or even change your view of living. So my suggestion is, and really, if you want to get good answers and all the answers, acquire this book, I promise you, because I know from experience from all the people who have bought it and contacted me and said how much it's helped them and enhanced their lives, giving them ideas of how to accept what happens and deal with what happens. So, first and foremost, don't spend time regretting the mistakes you made or the things you could have done differently. Now that you know the consequences of your actions. So, if you made a bad choice in your marriage, whether you're the husband or the wife, either if it's something that's correctable and you think it's worthwhile, go to work on it and correct it. If it's something that is basic, you find out something about your mate that you didn't know, and it's so turn offish. What's the word at the turn off?
Off-putting?
Off-putting. Then don't fight that reality. So don't spend time regretting what you can't change. That's the key. And anything you can change that you feel that it's worth changing, that you should work on it. But not if it's going to take up all of your life and the odds of it changing, no matter how much input of your talents, of your energy, of whatever. So spend your time dealing with the future, not the past. We can't change the past. Accept what past, and if you could change the consequences of that past, then work on it, if it's important. Mostly it's not that important because we move on. If we're healthy, we move on. And we find ways to make our future more constructive, more upbeat, more fulfilling. So just look forward to the future. Stay optimistic. That's the key. Stay optimistic. If you're optimistic and you smile and you act happy, you will be happy. Anyway, I wanted to tell you, if you buy the book and you're unhappy with it, or you don't feel it was worth many times what you paid, I will send me the purchase ticket, the invoice of the amount of dollars you spent, and I will send you not only a refund, but double what you spent. So you come out ahead. And you could even keep the book and hopefully use it and benefit from it. So enough about the happiness. Maybe we should spend a full program just talking about happiness. You let me know if that's something you would like to do. So now, without further ado, I'm pleased to have on board Len Carter, a genius in his own right, the graduate of the same business school, graduate school that I graduated from, Harvard Business School. Like me, he was top of his class. Before that, he earned a degree in electric engineering from one of the great Ivy League schools, Cornell University. And after that, he followed that with a graduate degree, a master's in electrical engineering at Stanford University. Again, one of the great American advanced place, institution of learning. So I'm privileged and pleased to have Len on with us. He's the one that helps, at least helped today's program, but generally helped me a lot in dealing with the current issues. So without further ado, let me introduce Len Carter, and listen carefully because you're going to get brilliant insight and advice. Leonard, thank you for joining me.
Thank you, Morty. Always a pleasure to be here. So it's been a couple of weeks since we've chatted, and I was just thinking we've been on the air, or you've been on the air with the show over about 2.5 years, and since starting, a primary topic has been politics in America, and in particular the presidential situation. And as we've gotten closer to November 5th, more and more focus and discussion on those topics. And here we are now, less than a week to go before the election. As we were talking a little before the show, I'm not sure we'll have an answer a week from now, because there's 7 states where it's truly a toss-up, and likely to be even closer than it was in 2020 in certain states, and in 2016 in certain states. So we usually stay up and hope to get an answer Tuesday night, but I don't know if we're going to this time, just because of how close it is. And certain states have rules on how absentee ballots are counted, how mail-in ballots are counted. I think Pennsylvania can't count ballots until Election Day. So that means they come in and pile up, and then they have to start opening envelopes and counting. So that takes a while. Other states, I think, can count before the election. So different states, different rules. And just on top of that, just razor thin, margins on either side. I mean, no pollster is saying with any degree of confidence that either candidate, has a likely chance. You look at, the stock DJT, the Trump media, and they say that's an indication of what investors or the market thinks is an outcome. If you believe that, it's been rallying substantially
Really?
the last few weeks. I don't think it's at all-time highs, but I think in the last few weeks it's doubled, maybe since the end of the summer. So that, people, it's always been a Trump stock, a play on Trump's fortunes and future and influence, much more than it's on economics, because I think they say the company has the revenues of one Starbucks and the market cap of probably more than Starbucks. I don't even know, but it's substantial. I mean, I guess Trump's stakes were like $4 or $5 billion, so the market cap of the whole company is probably 10, on the order of 10. because he has more than half the company.
It's probably more than any other asset he ever. $5 billion. If it turns out to be liquid,
Right.
it's and it could go much higher. So it's a real windfall. But that's Trump.
So, we'll see what maybe the play is like one of those, I don't know, it's a straddle or one of those where you buy long puts and long calls. So one of two things is going to happen. Either it's going to go up or it's going to go down a lot. So you just don't know which one. So if you're right on the long side, your calls are good and your puts are worthless. If he loses the election and the stock tanks, then you make it on the puts. I'm not trying to make money off of that, of DJT.
Usually,
it's a difficult one.
Usually, if you go long and short the same stock, saying you can't lose money. I had one broker tell me that. Let's short it and buy it long. And I said, well, how do I make money?
Yeah.
He said, yeah, but you can never lose money.
Yeah, that's true.
So he didn't understand the stock market, but it was a great insight. So
his intentions were good.
with calls, with futures, with options, the most you could lose is what you paid for the option.
Right.
So if you bought one that it's going to go way down and it moves up instead, you lose whatever you paid for the option.
Right.
But if at the same time you bought one
put
that depends on it going much higher and it does that, no matter that the one you bought that takes good care of you, providing the stock tanks, it doesn't matter because you make a lot on the upside and you lose whatever you paid for the option. So right now, look, he's a winner no matter what he does, whether it's the TV program he ran, what was it called?
Apprentice.
The Apprentice, or running for president, a guy who's never run for anything and has the most unique strategy for pursuing president.
That's true. And even the strategy of running for president is unprecedented.
Right. And that's missed only by so much more than most other.
For most other candidates, his strategy wouldn't work. The strategy of doubling down on things which normally would put candidates off the path permanently, off the ballot.
Yeah.
So, as we run up to next week, we CNN invited the candidates to a debate. Trump said it's too late. When Harris said, I would love to have a debate, Trump said no. So instead they had a town hall. My thought on that and the outcome of that was really not terribly changing. Most of the questions that Anderson Cooper asked her were either kind of not answered or, you can tell by the sound bites that come out afterwards. And the only one, I think the most played was the one where he asked her, so is Donald Trump a fascist? and it was the first time I've heard a candidate, particularly her, actually answer a question with a direct response. Because normally when they ask her something, it's either dodged or it's not answered or twisted around. But this time she said yes. The immediate answer was yes, he is. I believe he is. So, and that sound bit was has been replayed over and over. He's at the Trump rally over the past weekend. He criticizes. He's been criticized for saying things like we have to take care of the enemy from within, and he'll say, well, calling me a fascist is just as bad as saying what I'm saying. So it is more of the same, more of both sides being highly inflammatory, to get noticed and to get people to take notice. But in the wanted to get your thoughts on some of the ads that you see, because the week running up to the election, I don't know about you, but like every single commercial, it seems, is a political ad these days, whether it's a local race or a Kamala Harris ad or a Trump ad trashing her or her trashing him, or every single, this is the network's, dream come true quarter, because every, the hundreds of millions of dollars that the candidates raised are all going right into TV ads. And these days, I think that's a huge medium. But so, want to get your sense of those, because if you look at what's happened, the Trump ad, so there's been a shift since like maybe the summer to now, away from crime and immigration to attack ads on her for previously supporting taxpayer-funded gender transition surgeries for immigrants and federal prisoners, and ads that saying she'll raise taxes. So their message in the past was crime, immigration, and now it's moved to more of a culture war kind of thing, where they're saying Kamala supports they, them pronouns, and we support you. Which get your thoughts, but my feeling is that's the big issues are economy and immigration. So, and we talked about this the last time, how many detained immigrants are actually seeking sex change, transgender surgeries? 3, right? It's not a big issue, but that seems to be a focus of those ads. On the Harris side, so there's been a shift from what was a focus on abortion, healthcare, Medicare, which is, on the healthcare and Medicare, the Democrats have always, tried to play that Republicans want to cut Medicare and cut Social Security and cut those kinds of things. We're for seniors. And the big issue for Democrats has been women's reproductive rights. So though that was the focus a few months ago, and then that's now shifted a little more toward Trump's character and his wanting to give tax cuts to the rich and to the corporations. You see a clip of him in a tuxedo with Elon Musk in the background at a Mar-a-Lago event or something, saying, "You guys are rich as hell, and I'm going to give you tax cuts." So a shift in messaging from that to tax cuts. And I know we've discussed before, your feeling has been that a key issue for Democrats is the women's reproductive choice issue. So do you find it surprising that they would shift, given that, that's a very clear, stark, we want to cut Medicare, they want to cut Medicare, we don't. I mean, that's not even true. No, I don't think any Republican, has come out and said we want to, that's more of a traditional trope, like all Democrats want to defund the police. That's just as untrue as saying all Republicans want to cut Medicare. But abortion that's a much more defined distinction between how the Democrats typically are viewing that issue and how conservative Republicans typically see that issue. So rather than continually highlighting that distinction, which we've talked about how that's a key thing and played, strongly in the 2022 midterm elections of mitigating the red wave that never happened because of that issue. So is it surprising to you that that the ad focus would shift from a key issue that it's a real substantive issue to something more like Trump's character? I mean, do people not know Trump's character by now? I mean, it's almost gotten to the point where I think people don't care, in the sense that they know what they know. And it's not, you keep showing me ads of Trump, and the rotunda talking about January 6th. I mean, people who want to believe that he was responsible for January 6th will believe it. People who don't. I don't know if you're going to get people to change their minds. Whereas, reminding people that, reproductive rights is
Nobody could disagree that he is some kind of character.
In that regard, yes, the ads are completely are unbiased. But I mean, if you were running the campaigns, let's look at it this way: if you were running Harris's campaign, where would you emphasize? Do you think negative attention against Trump, pointing out all the negative things he did, or would you try to? And which of those issues? Trump overturned Roe v. Wade. Trump was responsible for the judges that did overturning over it. He, wants to add tariffs to imported goods. Or would you focus more on, your own, Harris's own issues, as opposed to negative, not positive on herself versus negative on Trump?
In 2022, it was a hard call, between Trump and Biden.
2020.
What?
Not the midterm election or the presidential election?
Presidential.
2020.
2020.
Yeah.
So my feeling at that time, people said it was inflation, it was wars, it was all kind of different things. And I felt that the cancellation of Roe Wade was the most. It took away a woman's choice, a right to not have a child. And the other extreme was, even if you were raped or you had sex, incestuous sex, your father, your brother, your uncle, you were obligated to have that baby.
Or even if the mother was going to die, even if it was determined that the health of the mother is truly in danger, irrespective of rape, incest, or anything like that, it still was, in certain states outlawed.
Or even if the rapist was a known criminal, murderer, they insisted you got to bring that baby into this world. So it was a very emotional issue. And a lot of women, and women are more than half the electorate, and it isn't, the issues are always the same. The economy, inflation, are we belligerent, war? I mean, they never change. But it's the degree of intensity of the feeling. And I felt in that election that the intensity that women felt for themselves, for their daughters, for their mothers, that they couldn't have that choice was a terrible deprivation. And so they even, the pro-life even objected to pills to prevent you from becoming, what did they call that?
Birth control.
What?
Birth control.
Birth control. So I felt strongly that issue was going to dominate, even though all the others are definitely a factor. And my tendency is, it seems to be less on the front page, but if I had to bet, I'd say that's still emotionally and as a driving force, one of the key determinants.
So
how people.
So do you think that was? Are you surprised then that they would put less emphasis on that issue over the last few months, since it's such an important one? And would you, if you were the campaign manager, say, would you have advised against that shift, meaning keep the focus on this key issue of women's reproductive
I would
choice?
definitely keep the focus on that issue, because every place where it's been up to the states, because it's been moved to the states as a result of the Supreme Court decision that the federal government shouldn't determine that, but states should. Even the states that were most pro-life, in every case, have voted Kansas, which was expected to be very pro-life. In every case, the pro-choice choice, pro-choice,
Mm-hmm.
pro-choice campaign issue.
Yep.
Dominated.
Yep.
Not even close.
So
I think it's not as prevalent because a lot of time has passed, a significant amount of time has passed since Roe Wade was canceled. And people tend to live what actually occurs, and often accept things that they wouldn't normally accept once it's out there. So my view, even this time, is that the Democrats have the upper hand because of that issue.
Yeah, I mean, I think I would agree that should have remained a main focus. The attacking Trump's character, I think you're better off focusing on an economic issue and saying Trump wants to give tax cuts to the rich and corporations. I think I would have spent my ad money more on those types of ads, because we know people, we know the economy is like number one issue for voters across the board. And so ads relating to that, how are my policies going to help you? Because they certainly, inflation is a tough one for Democrats to argue, even though it's come down. Price level is still high. So saying Trump wants to give tax cuts to the rich, that's not going to benefit most of America. I think that's where I would have focused on. But let me ask you about this now, because this is just the last few days we've seen, most newspapers endorse a candidate. This cycle, both the LA Times and the Washington Post, two, liberal papers, have not endorsed a candidate. Now, I understand the Washington Post, that Bezos owns, used to not endorse candidates. And it's only been in the last few cycles, I think, where they began to endorse candidates. So they're saying, well, we're just going back to our roots. The LA Times, I'm not sure. I think they are. I think this is a break from history. But that's. Do you think newspapers should endorse candidates? Does it matter? And what do you think is the significance of those two major papers not endorsing the Democrat? Does it help Trump? I'm sure he'll say it does, because he'll say, look, they didn't endorse her. Just like, who was it? The union, was it the UAW? I don't know. Some union didn't endorse Biden this time, and Trump was all over that. Look, now they didn't endorse him either, but not endorsing his opponent to him is a victory. And in some sense it is. So what do you think? Should papers make endorsements? I mean, no paper, they'll papers say we report news, but at least on certainly editorials are editorials. They're not news.
I have no problem with the newspapers endorsing or not endorsing. I like to know, because the papers you mentioned are leading opinion developers. The Washington Post, the most powerful paper in Washington, and so very influential amongst congressmen, senators, cabinet members. So, do they have an influence? Yes. Should they give their opinion? Yes. And depending on the basis on which they put forth their opinion, you can either agree with them or disagree with them. So there's always going to be this discussion. Should media just be neutral? Like they say, journalists should just report the news, but not have any bias one way or the other. And I have no problem as long as the bias is for some good reason and they're not always one-sided.
Right.
So,
and
also there's the fact that the owners of these medias have other vested interests.
That's the thing, yeah.
So a guy like Bezos,
yep,
who owns Amazon,
and
doesn't want to rub any customers the wrong way, so he'd rather stay away from.
In this case, I've heard somebody say, and why they're saying it's wrong to not for the Washington Post to not endorse, because they say Bezos, because he owns that space company, doesn't want to, it's a business decision. If Trump gets elected, he doesn't want to bash Trump because he's going to need something from the government. So, is his, contemplation of being nice to politicians who could influence contracts or business going his way, is that as bad, is that as much an influence on is that as much a bad thing as making an endorsement? Because they're saying he didn't make an endorsement because he wants to kowtow to Trump and maybe get that business down the road. So whereas, when they do make an endorsement, you say the same thing. So I don't know. That's
Look, Musk has come on very strong for Trump, and he does a lot of business with the federal government.
Yes, he's basically become NASA. SpaceX has become NASA.
So,
yeah,
should we stop him from behaving that way?
Well,
it's interesting because Musk is a committed Christian, but both his mother and his grandmother on his mother's side are Jewish. So at least in terms of the definition of a Jew for Israel and for citizenship, he's considered, he gets a passport, he gets free entry. He's a total Jew. So it's amazing. The richest guy in the world is by definition Jewish. That's
his father's Christian.
Yeah.
Well, let's talk about Mr. Elon for a moment, because Elon Musk, because he's come out as a big Trump supporter, so much so that he's been offering $1 million a day as in his word, a lottery, or to randomly selected registered voters in swing states. So you can tell this isn't altruism on giving out money, because it's only in swing states, who signed a petition in support of the First and Second Amendment. So if you live in a swing state, sign this petition that supports the First and Second Amendment and are a registered voter, you become eligible for this $1 million a day giveaway. So that has sparked a lot of debate and controversy, so much so that legal scholars some are saying that's illegal. And I believe Pennsylvania is suing him, saying that it's an illegal lottery. It is illegal to pay someone to vote, irrespective of whom they vote for, to pay someone to vote or to pay them to register to vote. So the question becomes, is what Musk is doing illegal? I don't know. He says, it's a lottery. I'm just randomly giving away money. the conditions for. I'm not saying you have to register. It's a condition to be eligible for the lottery. You have to be a registered voter. Just like if I said the condition to the lottery is you have to have cable television. Does that mean I'm paying you to get cable television? No, it's a condition precedent to being in this lottery. So I don't know. It seems a little bit.
I don't want
Seems
to
a
take
little fishy, but
I don't want to take a position on that
unless you can get into the lottery,
right? No, because it requires a lot of thinking and a lot of discussion. And before
yeah. And even after, I don't know if there is even an answer.
I'm saying,
it's a tough one.
So at this juncture, I can't make a good decision. The First Amendment and the Second Amendment, I have issues certainly with the Second Amendment. So at this juncture, I'd leave that in the hands of the Supreme Court.
And just as one aside, also to show you how maybe not so lottery it really is. I think I was just reading that it turns out coincidentally that some of the last winners of the lottery were also attendees of the Trump rallies.
Really?
But that just could be coincidence. So, all right. So let's talk more about some issues. So one of the things, and this is specific.
I would put that information out. You might have got a lot of people to move their vote for Trump.
Well, it's not. You don't have to be a Trump voter. You just have to be a registered voter.
Okay.
So, and you have to say, I support the First Amendment and Second Amendment. So the people who are tending to do that might be, more Trump voters, but they're not saying you have to vote this way. But I'm not sure why it's illegal to pay people to register to vote. I mean, if that should be a good thing, right? You want people to register to vote. You want people to vote. Why would you want to discourage them? But for whatever reason,
no, but you're not allowed. How they vote on those two issues may determine who they vote for.
But they're not saying you have to vote for any one candidate, or that even that's to say I support the Constitution. So I don't know. I mean, we'll see how that one plays out. I mean, he's only got a few $1 million left to give away anyway before the election. So, and I'm not taking up a collection for him because it's petty cash for him.
We got to go back to the days when you had to pay to vote.
I guess it's a poll tax. So here's an interesting issue that is specifically for New York voters. It's a state resolution on the ballot for New York voters. Every state typically will have their own, the congressional races, the presidential race, and then local, state races, and then often propositions of some kind, like should we legalize marijuana? Should we codify abortion? Whatever, like you mentioned in Kansas. So this in New York State is Proposition 1, and it's billed as an equal rights amendment. So this would be an amendment to the state's constitution, New York State's constitution. And here's what it says. It says, no person shall be denied the equal protection of the laws of this state or any subdivision thereof. No person shall, because of race, color, ethnicity, national origin, age, disability, creed, religion, or sex, including sexual orientation, gender identity, gender expression, pregnancy outcomes, and reproductive health care and autonomy be subjected to any discrimination in their civil rights by any other person or by any other firm, corporation, institution, by the state agency, blah, blah, blah. So now, it's been billed as an equal rights amendment because it says you can't discriminate for this reason, which, on the surface would sound like it makes sense at an egalitarian level. The impetus behind it was to codify abortion in the state's constitution as, other states, as you mentioned, like Kansas, put a referendum to the voters, the citizens of the state, whether or not there should be allowed, abortion of some type, time limit, whatever. In New York State, it's currently legal, but there are certain people say that it should be clearly codified in the Constitution so that it's not ambiguous and other laws can't contradict it, because things that are in the Constitution can't be unconstitutional, right? So if we had an amendment that said, just like we have an amendment that says you can't have slavery, there's no laws that can be passed permitting slavery, because the Constitution can never be unconstitutional. So if it's in the Constitution, it's the definitive law. So I didn't hear the abortion word as I read that because it's not in there. So critics of this proposal, and this is, it's a yes/no vote next Wednesday for New York State voters. Critics say that it goes way beyond, or could go way beyond just its intent of codifying abortion, because of the language in there regarding sexual orientation, gender identity, national origin, and things like that. So read a couple things of what some of the critics say, that it's not needed to protect abortion because New York State legalized abortion in 1970 and is not under any threat of repeal. Further, the word abortion does not appear in the amendment. Right? I didn't hear any, as it does in other U.S. state proposals protecting abortion rights. So, that seems like a reasonable. If they wanted to codify abortion, why wouldn't they say that? This way, it leaves it open to. It uses these broad terms like pregnancy outcomes, reproductive autonomy, leaving it to judicial interpretation. So some of the other criticisms could be, and this is a big one, is that and I've seen a TV ad on this, the term that you won't be discriminated against based on national origin. So what does that mean? If you can't be discriminated based on national origin, does it mean that you have, and if this is in the Constitution now, do migrants have certain constitutional rights? Right? So if there's certain rights that, say, citizens have, let's say, certain healthcare rights or, benefits or whatever that may be as citizens, and a migrant who's not a citizen wants that same right in New York, could that person say, under this amendment to the Constitution now, you can't discriminate against me, you can't not give me this benefit because of my national origin, meaning I'm from a country not the U.S. I'm not a citizen, but that's discrimination against me for national origin. I don't know. That could very well be.
If I were an immigration lawyer or a lawyer on citizenship, I would say that's consistent with the law anyway. Because if you're foreign born, there's a prerequisite that you are here for a number of years, or that you were literally born here in this country. So it doesn't necessarily contradict what is already the law.
Well, but the law doesn't guarantee if someone's here illegally, they don't have a legal right to say to have say Medicaid.
Right.
Right. I mean, an illegal migrant has no right to Medicaid.
Right.
A citizen has a right to Medicaid.
So what does this say?
So this says that you can't discriminate against somebody based on national origin. So does that then mean that if you are an illegal migrant and you want Medicaid and they say no because you're not a citizen, you're an illegal migrant, you're not entitled to Medicaid, does that person...
So you're saying this covers every...
It could. That's what the critics are saying. They're saying if we do this, it opens up a whole can of worms, and now illegal migrants could say, I'm entitled to Medicaid because otherwise you're discriminating against me based on national origin. So it does, at a minimum, I think it's ambiguous. I mean, it gets me a little nervous because, people that drafted this, if they really want to codify abortion, why wouldn't you say abortion? Is there some bigger kind of backdoor agenda here?
When you read it to me, I thought it was pretty innocent.
Right. I mean, you read it, it sounds pretty like how can you not be in favor of non-discrimination, right? Who's in favor of discrimination?
That's why we have the courts, and that's why the courts are always tied up. The best response I heard, I think I told you that before, was Mitt Romney, when he was running for president, was giving a speech at the Harvard club in Manhattan. Private speech, and maybe 1,000 people there. And it was a very pleasant, no rambunctious, no strong resistance.
Yeah.
So anyway, he said, I asked my wife last night, because I'm so impressed we're at the Harvard club, and I'm running for president and so forth. So I asked her, I said, would you have believed in your wildest dreams that I would ever be at the Harvard club giving this talk, running for president? And she came back, and said, Mitt, I hate to tell you this, but you were never in my wildest dreams. So I think, women have a way of dealing with issues much more effectively. But, with language, we're never going to get past this issue, of how do we resolve all these things. Even when they resolve it, it's open. What?
Right. Even when it's clear, it's not clear.
Like they said,
right?
If it's part of the president's thing, then it's allowable. But then they have to say,
what is that?
What? Yeah. What's
right? Is it in the course of the presidential duties or not? What is it? Yeah. So
Lottie, where do we stand?
just about out of time.
1 minute more. For
We
1
have
hour.
one
So
minute more.
let's with the 1 minute left, we can give our predictions for the outcome a week from now, or our next show will be a discussion of where we are. What do you think?
I gave you my opinion. I think women are going to
No.
determine.
And so you think Trump's going to lose?
Yeah. I think that's going to be the thing that swings the vote. I'm not sure it's my view that that's a dominant issue. But, I wouldn't be surprised if it's changed since the number of years since Roe Wade. What do you think?
I think it's going to be extremely close. I think it's possible that when our next show a week from now, which is the day after the election, I don't know if we'll have a winner, because I think it may take a few days to count the, I mean, when the networks report, this state goes to this candidate and this state goes to that candidate, they do it, when 80% of the precincts are in, or even less. I don't think you can do that in this case. They're going to have to wait for 99% of the precincts to be in, and that's not going to happen in election night in everywhere, particularly because so many states matter. So I think it's going to be extremely tight. I think Kamala Harris will win the popular vote, but I think Donald Trump will win the electoral vote.
Oh.
In the end, when they count and recount, I think he's going to win.
Well, they're even assuming or thinking that the vote has to be complete. And I think it's feasible, if there's no decision, that some of the magma people are going to say that deliberately sabotaging Trump, and then we could have what we had on January 6th.
Well, but the thing with January 6th, though, is that there was a focal point. So where would protesters protest, or where would insurrectionists, if you want to call them that, go on November? The election's on the 5th of November. So on the 6th of November, they're going to say there's something, Trump won, and
Let's start a civil war.
Where do they go? Where do they go? The White House, the Capitol?
Yeah.
Where are they going to go to do this? To just start shooting people? What would they do?
They'll go to the White House.
The White House is a fortress.
They'll go to the Capitol.
Capitol's a fortress.
Well, that doesn't stop them.
It wasn't a fortress then. I think just like 9/11 changed a lot of things on air travel, like you can't get into the cockpit anymore, you can't do a lot of things you were able to do before 9/11. I don't think you're going to see. I think the next time the vice president counts electoral votes, which will be in 2020, January, whatever, 5th, 6th, whatever the date is, 2025, which Kamala Harris will be the one doing that, counting votes, there will be armed guards for miles around the Capitol. Because they're not going to, I mean, they were so, it's just, it happens all the time. Everyone thinks, oh, it can never happen until it does.
Your rationale is very logical, but I'm telling you, there's no accounting for the madness of the crowd.
That's true, except this time you're prepared, because January 6th was the Capitol Police, people were taken so off guard, because no one thought that could ever happen
If a lot of
until it did.
of a lot of generals showing
No, but that's
magma and
no, but those
overthrow.
generals have to first be appointed by Trump, not now.
No, they don't have to be appointed by anybody.
You think there's generals now who are so supportive of Trump that they would
the magma
generals that they would participate in
overthrowing
if Trump if the announcement is he lost.
Right.
All right, that I think.
Because you're being rational.
I don't think that
you're being rational, and I'm saying these people are irrational.
Look, Trump said he wants generals like Hitler had.
That's right.
Right, unquestionably loyal.
Yeah.
But the generals now under Biden are not those loyal Trump generals. He has to first.
Change.
No, but Biden has to.
Every
first Trump has to.
Every revolution that ever occurred, all of a sudden, generals joined the guy.
But I'm more
that wanted to become so.
I'm more worried if Trump's legally elected, his ability to hand select generals legally, because right now, could generals, desert the army and go follow Trump's orders? That could happen. I mean, generals desert. I mean, that's a pretty tall order.
No, they say that's that's patriotic.
But
that they're following the leader.
No, because the leader is not Donald Trump. The leader is
that's your definition.
No, until he's signed in, until he's sworn in. No, but if Trump's legally elected, then he will legally be able to appoint generals, and that's a lot different than expecting generals to.
If he wins, then it's not an issue.
That's what I'm saying. That's where the concern.
But I'm saying there's madness.
All right.
In terms of the magma and the loyalty.
Well, no.
You don't have the sense of the kind of loyalty that the magma people have. Look, they gave their lives on January 6th. Anyway.
All right.
It's been great.
On that happy note.
Right. It's been great, as always, with being with my wonderful friends, cohorts, participants. Thank you for joining me. I look forward to being with you a week from today, Wednesday, 6:30 p.m. next week, and all of the Wednesdays after that. And in the meantime, I want to wish you a happy every day of your life. Every day should be better than the day before. You should have good health. You should have outstanding success in all that you pursue, and genuine, uplifting, inspirational happiness. And get the book, Happiness Guaranteed, or Your Misery Back, because that'll help you achieve what I just suggested. Thank you. God bless you. I love you. Bye. Bye.